Good morning, Professor Farid. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for your submission. If you don't mind, I'd like to take you through some of the comments that you've made in your submission, as well as some other documentation, and then we could have a discussion about perhaps if there are any issues behind the statements that you've made, and then we'll go on a bit further from there, if you don't mind. If I understand you correctly, this is going to be a very challenging problem for the foreseeable future. It's not an easily solvable problem. And in one of your paragraphs on page 1, you said, reining in online abuses is challenging. We can and must do more to mitigate the harm that is being seeded and fueled online, while at the same time maintaining an open and free internet where ideas can be shared and debated.
Yes.
But you then also draw the distinction about fake or false images and videos as distinct from speech. And you pay some attention to the ability for distortions to occur around images and videos. I think this is your page 4 of your submission, where you say, even relatively unskilled users can now manipulate and distort the message of visual media. This is enabled by the wide scale of availability of sophisticated image and video editing applications that permit editing in ways that are very difficult to detect either visually or with current image analysis and visual media forensic tools. And the scale of this difficulty, you've got on to say, the difficulty faced is that there are more than 1 billion uploads to Facebook each day and 300 hours of video uploaded to YouTube each minute of the day. Professor, your distinction between images and videos versus text is related to its impact, or if I understand your submission, is it more about the possibility for using a technological solution to solve the problem?
It's the latter. I'm not making a claim about impact. I think both can be very impactful. I mean, there's no doubt that images and video and recordings, because of the way we digest that type of material, can be very impactful, but words can be equally impactful. What I was referring to was the type of technology that we have deployed on the child exploitation side, on the counter-extremism side, that can find and remove digital imagery, specifically images and videos. That technology is well understood. It has been deployed for over a decade, and it has been used to some real effect in limiting the distribution of very harmful material. It could also be used on the fake news front by finding images, video, audio recordings that are known to be fake, falsehoods, recordings that were not made by people purported to make them, and we could remove that. Text, despite the notion that it might be easier, can also be very tricky. But let me preface this by saying I am not an expert on natural language processing, on text-based analysis. I am an expert on imagery, video, image, and audio analysis. So I think that there are things that can be done on the text side, but it's very easy to manipulate text to look very different in different contexts. And you know this because we still have a spam problem, right? So decades later, decades of research in trying to eliminate very simple spam messages continues to fail. So dealing with fake text is extremely challenging. They're all challenging to varying degrees, but we have some fairly well-known solutions in the image and video space that I think could be deployed today on the fake news front.
And the need to deploy such technology specific to video and imagery is linked to its potential to reach, go viral very quickly as compared to a simple text post. Is that your contention?
I think it is. So I think what we've been seeing over the last few years is that fake news is moving from a simple web page that somebody props up to make it look like a real news story to now full-blown videos of world leaders saying things that they've never said, so doctored video. And I think we can agree that when you read something and when you see a world leader saying something, those are very different impacts in the way we process and the way we believe that information. So I think all signs are coming into this year and next year as the technology has been developing to create these fakes, that we are going to start to see these types of fakes rolling out in national and state elections to try to manipulate public opinion. I will mention that we have always seen manipulated images and manipulated video for decades. And in fact, even back to pre-digital. But the concern now is the sophistication of the technology that allows for the digital media to be manipulated. And then, of course, there's the other component to this, which we can talk about, which is the way social media is not just hosting this, but is promoting the material. Every time there's a world event, we see that the YouTubes, the Facebooks, and the Twitters are promoting at the highest levels the conspiracy theories and the fake news because they attract more clicks, more attention, more advertising dollars. So there's really two components to this discussion. I guess three: the creation of the fakes, the distribution of the fakes, and then how we bring them down and take them offline.
With respect to the middle component, the distribution of deliberate online falsehoods, you talked a bit about the online platforms promoting such material because it attracts revenue for them. Do you believe that this is a deliberate editorial decision, or is it an emergent phenomena from the business model and the structure of the platform?
I think it's a little bit of both. So let me preface this by saying I'm not an expert on economics or business models. Now, I don't think there is somebody flipping a switch saying promote this, don't promote this. But I think there is somebody designing the algorithms that propagate this material to the top. And I think that it's done knowingly. I think the YouTubes and the Facebook know at the end of the day that this material is being promoted. And at least from the Facebook side, we have heard from the CEO, Mark Zuckerberg, that they do want to change, that they do want to engage in a more meaningful way. We've not heard similar things, I should mention, from YouTube, but we have heard at least a promise to do better on the Facebook side. Whether that will come around or not, I think remains to be seen, however.
Thank you. So you go on in terms of your discussion and your submission to talk about solutions and the limitations of various options. Given what you've just said, then your position that an AI or an algorithmic solution to the problem, given that part of the problem is caused by an algorithmic design, maybe we might need a little bit of an explanation about that.
Sure. So today there's currently three ways of thinking about online moderation. One is the good old-fashioned manual way. And that's largely the way we have been doing things in terms of user-flagged abuses. So a user, law enforcement flags content, humans at the YouTube, Facebook, Twitter side manually review and then make a decision. It stays up or it goes down. So the manual review is one option. The other option is the technology that we've developed, the robust hashing, the photo DNA, the eGlyph technology. And that is a combination of two things. It starts with a user. You flag content. The company decides it wants to take it down. It then decides, not only are we going to take it down this one time, but we will take it down for all future uploads. So you extract from that content, whether it's an image, a video, or an audio, a signature that is distinct to that device, to that piece of digital material, and then you eliminate future uploads. So if you will, that's a hybrid approach, part human, part computer. Okay? The third approach is the fully autonomous, AI-based, computer-based, no humans in the loop. Okay? So that is, you learn, machine learning, what is child exploitation, what is extremism, what is fake news, and then you unleash that technology to decide every time content comes up, is it allowed, is it not allowed? So the problem with the first approach, the manual, is it doesn't scale, right? At 1 billion uploads a day and hundreds of hours of video a minute, you can't hire enough people to do the moderation. The problem with the last solution, fully autonomous, is the accuracy is not even close to where you need to be. So even the absolutely best machine learning AI-based systems have error rates 1 in 1,000. Maybe if things are going very well, 1 in 10,000. Okay. So at a scale of billions of uploads a day, you are now talking about millions of mistakes a day, right? It's untenable. You will have social media eliminating posts incorrectly at a rate that would be prohibitive. So that's not to say that we shouldn't work harder to develop better AI systems, but my belief today, in the next few years, is that the solutions have to be somewhere in the middle of a combination of human and computer. So the robust hashing technology that I've described to you and that has been deployed for over a decade is highly effective. I think that the machine learning algorithms and approaches could be used, but in conjunction with humans. So that is, they can be the early flags, and then the humans have to go and review. Once a decision is made, that content can then be eliminated from future uploads using the robust hashing. So I think most likely that, at least for the foreseeable future, we're going to have a combination of human and computer efforts in order to find and remove this type of content, because the AI systems are simply not there. Let me add one other component to this, which I think complicates the fully autonomous systems, is that like the spam, anti-spam, and virus, antivirus, the adversary doesn't just stop. The adversary adapts. So if I build an algorithm that blocks an adversary, they don't just go home. They adapt the generation of the content to be to bypass the filters. We have had this fight for decades in a number of computer privacy and security issues. So whatever fully autonomous systems you develop, they will constantly be attacked. And by the way, they'll be attacked by AI systems. So you'll have AI systems creating content, AI systems trying to detect it, and AI systems trying to defeat it. And now we have a little bit of an arms race with these AI systems. So I think, at least for the foreseeable future, we are going to have to create a fairly rigorous moderation of humans who will augment what computers can do.
Thank you. We'll return to this question a little bit later, because I think we do need to spend a bit of time thinking about how we approach the problem and what might be the considerations, both from the model of the solution as well as the constraints and so forth. But can we spend a little bit of time talking about the technology itself? Because I think it's worth understanding what's possible and what's not possible. So I think you described a little bit of it, or quite a lot of it actually, in your past comments, but if we could perhaps expand a little bit. The technology that you're talking about, the sort of photo DNA and e-glyph, right, I think are the two terms that you've used. So if I understand your premise correctly, and forgive me if I'm oversimplifying, but I think we need to maybe perhaps make sure that this is recorded correctly. It analyzes, this is from your page 2 of your submission, the technology extracts from a digital image, audio, or video a distinct digital signature. And this is what you're calling the hash algorithm. So a mathematical analysis of an image or a series of images, which is what a video is, generating a mathematical function which is unique to that product. Am I with you? Is that correct so far?
That's correct.
And the uniqueness of this hash algorithm then would allow the same image then to be identified unambiguously as content across a number of platforms. It's platform agnostic.
It's platform agnostic. I will add, I just want to correct one thing. It's not unambiguously. So there are errors in the software. We estimate the errors are on the order of 1 in 100 billion. So that is, we need to see 100 billion uploads. So let's call that 100 days of uploads on Facebook before we mistake 2 images for the same one. Okay. Now here's where the tension is with this technology. I could make it unambiguous. So I could make it so that the errors are essentially 0. But the issue is that we need to not only be able to identify the image, but we have to be able to identify the image if it has undergone some simple modifications. So if somebody changes the size or changes the color or recompresses the image, or maybe takes the metadata out of the image, or maybe takes a video and crops out a small segment of it. So in order to be able to detect simple modifications like that, we have to give up on perfect, unambiguous, zero error rates. And you can see what the tension is. I need to be able to detect this image and a small number of variants of that image. And so that opens the door to a small number of errors. We've estimated that a 1 in 100 approximately error rate is an acceptable error rate when we were deploying this in the child exploitation space. And this was done in collaboration with the social media platform. So everything you described is exactly right, except for that one piece I wanted to just be clear about.
No, thank you. That's useful. Now, in your written submission, you also talk about the process and the challenge and delay at developing this technology. So I think it was the last paragraph of page 1 where you talked about the technology coalition and over 5 years from 2003 to 2008 not developing a technology-based solution to this. But then you, in partnership with Microsoft, developed this over a year?
Yes.
And you've gone on to improve it over time?
Yes.
And it's been deployed?
PhotoDNA has been deployed since 2008 on most major internet platforms.
Give us
the extension.
Go on, please.
The extension of that software, which we call eGlyph, which was done in collaboration with the Counter Extremism Project, that's a New York-based NGO that I work with as an advisor, has not been deployed on the social media platforms. Despite us, I should mention, by the way, that PhotoDNA was given away for free. We were not trying to make money here. The same is true of eGlyph. We simply wanted to develop this technology because we felt it could be useful in removing some of this harmful content. eGlyph has not been deployed, although it has been offered to social media platforms, but PhotoDNA is, for the last decade, been deployed on most major internet platforms.
Can you maybe give us some idea of the impact or success of PhotoDNA since its deployment?
That's a good question. So there's a couple ways to define success. Let's start by talking about how much content are we looking for, right? So remember that the way this technology works is you say this is the content I want to find, and then we look for that content, okay? So the database of known child exploitation that we are searching for on average is about 80,000 pieces of known child pornography. I should mention that the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children, which is a US-based organization that deals with child exploitation, has over 80 million known child exploitation images. So this 80,000 is a relatively small number of what is known to us. In 2016, which is the last year that I have statistics for, we eliminated 10 million known child pornography images from redistribution. That's only looking for 80,000 images, right? So if we increase that to 800,000, 8 million, 80 million, so 3 orders of magnitude, you are talking about potentially we could eliminate billions of known child pornography. Now, the natural question is, well, why aren't you looking for more? You have the ability to find and remove this. And the answer, I will have to say, is a little perverse, is that the law here in the US is that when a social media company or an individual or law enforcement finds child pornography, they must report it to NCMEC. And so what happens is as we expand that database, NCMEC gets more and more and more reports. And frankly, they're simply unable to deal with all these reports. So we have this very strange situation where we have technology that can effectively eliminate most of the child pornography that has previously been seen, but we don't have the manpower to deal with all of those reports. So that's the situation right now.
So if I understand you correctly, having defined the type of imagery that you feel needs to be targeted, there are technological solutions in place which have been deployed for more than 5 years, which are able to effectively detect and just, correct me if I'm wrong, prevent the upload of, rather than just delete once it's already uploaded, millions of those images.
That's an incredibly important point, right? Because on the internet, 2 hours is an eternity, right? Things go viral in a matter of minutes or hours. So this material that we are talking about never even makes it online. So today, if you try to upload one of these 80,000 images that are known to us on Facebook, it will never see the light of day. Your account will be frozen at the time that you upload, and a report will be sent to NCMEC and eventually possibly law enforcement. So that technology, that infrastructure, that reporting mechanism exists today.
And has been in use by social media platforms since?
Microsoft deployed it in 2009, Facebook in 2010, Twitter in 2011, Google in 2016. So for almost 10 years now, it has been live and deployed.
And what is the determination of the images that are detected? So these are declared as illegal images?
Yes.
But
so the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children is the keeper of that determination. They are the experts in this space. I will tell you that they are exceedingly cautious to make sure that the material that is being hashed and searched for is 100% clearly child pornography. So the images are only of children 12 years and younger. These are prepubescent. There is no issue of age verification. And the images have a clear sexual act shown in them. So there's no question as to whether it's child pornography or not. So one of the things that we've tried to be very careful about, both in the child exploitation and the extremism space, is to acknowledge that there is material that may be disputed as to whether it's illegal, inappropriate, or a violation of terms of service. But we also acknowledge that there is material that is unambiguously illegal, inappropriate, and violations of terms of service, and that's the material that we go after. And
so this material, the way the technology works, there is no recourse, redress, or appeal process. It has been declared illegal, and therefore the platform is prohibited from uploading it.
There is a recourse. So when the material is found on the platform, the accounts are frozen. Well, so sorry, let me correct that. How the social media companies deals with the report varies from company to company. So what some companies do is they say, we trust the technology. When we find content according to this technology, we will freeze but not delete the account. The user will be sent notification that their account has been frozen, and they can dispute whether that was appropriate or not. Okay? A report is made with NCMEC. NCMEC will then investigate and determine whether to contact law enforcement. So there is a recourse that if the technology makes a mistake, the user can have the account unlocked. They can appeal the decision.
Just let me understand this correctly. If a new image is decided, if the process, the human in the loop, as it were, and the system and the organization decides that a new image is now to be declared illegal, that is the process that you've just described. The account is then frozen, and then there are opportunities for redress and recourse. No. Or is this where you have an image that has not yet been uploaded, but in the act of trying to upload a forbidden image, your account becomes frozen? You can then have an appeal process for that. The latter.
That's exactly right. It's that part, yes.
Okay. So in other words, the illegal, prohibited image has not been disseminated online, has not been uploaded, but someone has attempted to do so. And so the technology, as well as the operational policy of the social media platforms, blocks the attempt to do this, and at the same time, freezes the account.
Yes.
But the account holder can dispute the freezing of the account, but not the illegality of the image.
They can, well, I mean, if in fact the software in the 1 in 100 billion times made a mistake, then the software made a mistake, the account is unfrozen, and we apologize, okay? But they do not have a recourse to say this image is legal, because once the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children says this is a minor, this is child pornography, it is, as a matter of law, child pornography. So there is no recourse in trying to change the definition. Now, I should mention that that definition varies from country to country. So here in the US, drawings, cartoons, images that are not of actual children are protected. In the EU, that is not the case. Okay, so these laws on what does and what does not constitute child pornography varies from country to country, and of course, the same is true of extremism. Things that would be banned in the UK are different than in Singapore and in the US, of course.
And so the way this technology is deployed allows a jurisdictional variation over the process.
That's exactly right. So the database, for example, that is used on EU Facebook can be different than the database in the US, than the database in Saudi Arabia, for example. So we can move across jurisdictional boundaries by just deciding on what is and what is not prohibited speech.
Thank you. If I could then move to some of the comments that you've made about the limitations of a pure technological solution in your submission. And I think you're making the case that there always needs to be a human in the loop.
At least for now.
Okay. But for example, you talk about first the problem, this is on page 2 of your written submission, first the problematic content would still need to be first identified by human moderators. And you go on to say it cannot, without human assistance, discover new illegal or inappropriate content. So this technology would still have to be paired with manual review. Now, so the initial decision-making process has to be human-based, but once that is done, the technology can largely run unsupervised until there is a disputed process or a disputed decision, in which case then a human process is activated again. Am I understanding your explanation of the limitations of this process correctly?
That's exactly right. And I'll add, if I may, add one more piece to that. On the child exploitation side, the content is illegal. Whether you're a news organization, law enforcement, a private citizen, it doesn't matter, the content is illegal. When it comes to things like fake news, extremism-related material, the rules are a little bit different. That material is not inherently illegal. It may violate the terms of service, but it is not illegal. And so there you may have to make some decisions as, do we allow news organizations to post a beheading video, but we don't allow a known terrorist organization? So some of the decisions, there has to also be editorial decisions for the non-illegal content as well.
If I could return to some comments you made earlier about the 3 potential models of a fully human system, a hybrid system that you are advocating for, or a fully autonomous AI-driven system.
Yes.
I think you were alluding to what is the current process of how material is put up and presented to us, whether it's on a news feed or on a search site, as being seen to be autonomous, algorithmic, and AI-driven.
Yeah.
And how the presumption is then that our curation or editorial process needs to be human to sort of overcome this, but that is a problem of scale. Now, can I first ask you, is your contention that in truth the process through which information is presented to us is not fully autonomous? In other words, there are human decisions that are made about the design of the algorithms, about the way these algorithms will rank and weight certain issues one way or the other, the way the AI machine, the AI engine will deal with interpersonal relationships. These are human decisions that have been made to reinforce what is a semi-autonomous process. So actually, the way information is presented to us already is as a result of a hybrid process and not a fully autonomous AI-driven process. Is that your position?
That is absolutely true. At the end of the day, these algorithms are not being created by computers. They are being programmed. And they are being programmed to optimize engagement by the users. At the end of the day, social media is about engagement. Whether that's a Twitter, a Facebook, a YouTube, or a Google, the more time you spend on these, the better it is. So the algorithms are designed to make decisions to engage you more. So the clickbait, well, it turns out it works. The sensational, the conspiracy theories, the fake news, the things that keep you liking and tweeting and clicking is what is being optimized for by these companies. So you're absolutely right that these are human decisions at the end of the day, because we are deciding that this is what we want to optimize for, as opposed to trustworthiness. We could say we want to optimize for the more trustworthy the news organization, the higher it gets ranked, the more likely it is to get promoted on the feed. So you're absolutely right. At the end of the day, these are human decisions on what the algorithms are being optimized to do.